It has been years since the Brexit referendum, and whether people like it or not, the decision of a stricter policy has been under parliamentary negotiation. Although cooperation with the Commonwealth members, like Canada and Australia, is being undertaken to cope with the loss of European market, it is worth our attention that many of Commonwealth members, mostly those with darker skins, are not in the conversation. Such an alerting situation, however, is not a consensus in the streets of London. Although Commonwealth of Nations are the most populated unity in the world, our government was not attempting to collaborate effectively with our brotherhood, but releasing our event to those minority living legally in our capital city and our nations. Westminster's notions on the Windsor scandal, unfortunately, also planted an illusion among citizens that objecting darker Commonwealth members is not racist, but defending their property politically and economically. When the leaders in Westminster Hall had decided to lift their bridge with the European continent, it comes to our UK citizens, another issue. What should the relationship be with our communities on the next hemisphere? Those who raise their objections against Commonwealth members, particularly those non-white citizens, do not realize that their so-called defense cannot indeed help to defend our nationality, our economic, and our history, only in the opposing way. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, we are supposed to support our Commonwealth members, not simply because we are a member of it, but also because we are the successor of a great empire. Before the opposition rolling against me, I'd like to clarify a fundamental factor. Several turbulence in Germany about refugee violence made some of us believe that immigrants are the sources of instability of a nation and therefore must be eradicated. Whatever the excuses, a common resistance to such an idea always have a seemingly inevitable reason or proclaim that by rejecting those non-white citizens, UK could acquire the social stability once again, as no refugees or non-white people are hanging out on the streets. However, are we really opposing what we should oppose? A research conducted by Professor Doring at University of Oxford conducted that the majority of Brexit advocates, instead of what we expected to be working people that lost their job opportunity in the competition with EU or other immigrants, but the middle class living wealthy in the southeast England. Such is the case that if it is the middle class that is objecting the Brexit and is opposing its influence, why it is always the working people, our normal citizens, that is walking on the streets rolling against their immigration. An experience made by the professor at the University of Sussex with a darker skin may better illustrate part of British people's intimidation towards immigration. We voted to leave. Why haven't you left yet? This is an alarming signal to us as to the British citizens, no matter how flourish such a claim is announced. It must be noted crystal clear that it is essentially a criticism, discrimination, and prejudice, where skins are the factors affecting people's judgment about people's provocation. Indeed, what happens around us is market laws and job unemployment, which requires urgent policy change. However, is those irrational so-called patriotism that can really help us to unite our country? A research revealed that right after Brexit in 2017, hate crimes has multiplied by a shocking 42% in comparison with that of 2015, and most of this committed were confined relation to anti-immigrants, most of them are with darker skins. That is also an alarming signal, or in the perspective of Eva Nasmok, professor of Institute of Commonwealth in the University of London, that the way of those objections, or the patriotism of those so-called people, are centered so strongly at the conceptions of Britishness. If our government, our citizens, simply pour our dissatisfaction on the innocent colored Commonwealth citizens with an excuse of so-called Britishness, yes, what is the difference with other racism and discrimination? And what is next time that another racism against other minor communities have aroused with other fancy excuses? This, given the fact that such an idea brought us the hate crimes and other phenomena within our society, isn't it an irony to those so-called patriotism that they claimed that discrimination can unite our nation? But besides racism issues that many continental countries are also worried about, what truly makes us, the United Kingdom, special in the relationship with those colored people is bounded in our culture that dates back to the Great Empire. This provocation against colored Commonwealth also comes with another reason, saying that they are opposing against immigrants, just on the stance of protecting Britain's traditional culture against foreign invasion, accusing those immigrants as intruders, as similar things also occurred in the United States and the European continent. However, we have raised the potential threat of racism in social stability, but in cultural sense, denying colored peoples, particularly those Commonwealth members' contributions to our British society, is either ignorant or short-sighted. A more standing foundation for the paradox of Commonwealth's objections, if let's view from the perspective of historical flame, that the United Kingdom is prosperous based on the cooperation and alliance between nations rather than conquer on either side. It must be noted that the modern history of great empire, whether from the Victoria time or to the Second World War, is not merely the history of United Kingdom, but that of India, of South Africa, of Malaysia, and of many of former colonization nations and regions. Instead of eradicating those so-called colonizations, the former empire acknowledged the cultural diversity and mixed them with the Anglo-Saxon civilization, the elaboration of which created the modern UK citizens as we Londoners enjoy when the empire turned into Commonwealth in the decolonization era. If we reject the Commonwealth members simply by their color schemes, is it a signal that we are deviating from the route that this former great empire is chasing for? If we are deviating from the initiative of the empire, are we also denying the cause that our union is founded by? I think everyone who's sitting here that knows history was very proud of the United Kingdom, that its cultural interaction with the rest of the world, its ability to integrate diverse races and nationalities as a union. Both of them are key factors that could build our global status as the Commonwealth, not simply the UK. However, if the objection against the Commonwealth is the signal that we are actually losing such self-recognition. If we defend our society culture by rejecting the Commonwealth immigrants, isn't it the fact that we are actually denying our own cultural diversity that were formed 200 years ago since then? Yeah. And isn't that an intention of dividing our glorious history and our shadowy reality? Such an action disguised with the patriotism cannot always defend the interest of our British society, but only leaves an impression to the rest of the world that UK is rejecting its history UK is denying its history. UK is ignoring its history. Is that what we wanted for? Is that our nation as an empire, as a commonwealth, as a union have been chased since the Union Act in 17th century? That is an action. That is a question, not simply to me, but also to other so-called cultural patriotisms that are objecting our Commonwealth brotherhood in the name of self-interest. Indeed. Anyway, Brexit has occurred, and we are bound to leave the European Union. Britain is now in the dilemma of ethics in the face of immigrants from the third world members of Commonwealth as a result of deepening commercial cooperation. However, it is a necessity to rethink what those nations mean to us. The evaluation of Commonwealth members is not simply a figure of trading deals compared with the European Union. If those nations have been trading with us, perhaps the most significant and the most memorable deal they made with us is our mutual effort to build our social identity as a Commonwealth partnership and our diverse culture in the British society, which now we enjoy as British. If we, as citizens of the United Kingdom, are bound to leave the bridge once again with the European continent, it is also our obligation as members of Commonwealth, as successors of British Empire, to hold our arms, to welcome our brotherhood across the globe.